before our guest speaker comes on, we've got a few words I want to share with you guys. Thanks very much for everybody attending. We've got a few new people here. This is open to women for this particular session. Normally it's men only. Sorry, I can't remember your name. Delith, right. She's from Whitton Lodge. They fund us and support us, and she does some diabetes stuff. I just was interested to come and see what we're up to. Thanks for Jackie Halliday. Made it. Very busy GP. Works till 10, 10:30 and beyond, but she's here to try and support us. And she does so very much in the background, and thanks very much for your input, Jackie. I've got Shannon.
Any problems, make an appointment with her.
That might be the appointment you get. That's the appointment while you're here, by the way. in that back room, the kitchen. So thanks, Shannon and Sarah. Rubbish with names. They're from our social enterprise group, and they're looking at setting up some social enterprise in this area. So we have become good mates, and they've come to see what we're up to and what we're doing. And I'm hoping to probably do something with one or the other of them in terms of some sort of partnership or some sort of collaboration. So thanks very much for supporting us. Lots of people say they're going to make it and don't quite make it, so thank you guys very much for this. The guest speaker we got is actually Paul Howard, and he was at the Men's Health Expo. We were so chock-a-block with people there, he didn't get to speak. So guess what, we got him all to ourselves today. So we're waiting with a basic direct to do what Paul's going to say. Now I met Paul at church, a Seventh-day Adventist church which Jackie goes to. They did an amazing course, a 12-week course on reversing diabetes. So never mind what the system and AHA say, type 2 is so reversible. And these guys did an amazing job in convincing us to buy into their program and take some positive action. A lot of people came who had already become type 2. I was pre-diabetic. By the time I finished the course, I was not. So it works. And I personally have to say, I think the NHS should be rolling out more preventative than trying to cure us. And you know, these guys do a wonderful job, not with pills and potions, but just healthy living and changing your lifestyle. So this is only the start of hopefully your journey, and that you actually pick this up. You know, if you're diabetic or you've got people diabetic, there's lots of stuff on the internet. We've got access to Jackie Halliday Bell at the back, and I'm sure Paul doesn't mind if he takes a few calls if there's any queries on anything he's delivered or anything else generally. Just talking about the Men's Health Expo, I have to say that it was an amazing success. We had a full house at the pavilion. We had men and women. We had some marvellous speakers attending, and it was a ball. You know, the food was great. The caterers we used were excellent. And we had some great entertainment. Again, Jackie said you should try and break this up with entertainment. It worked, Jackie. I've had a lot of feedback on that. We had a great gospel singer, an international singer coming. Again, all for free. We had a saxophone guy that Jackie knew. So thanks very much to everybody who supported that. We're in the process of we tried to book Pavilion, and I'm laughing now because they gave us a great rate last year, charitable and all of this jazz. They saw the car park full and everybody there and food flowing, and it went from 300 quid to 1,040. And now they need security. This is an invite-only event, so I don't know what security you guys are going to create or will create next year, but it doesn't look like it's Pavilion, but Gordon's going to give it a crack. I've gone as far as I can, but if anybody knows any nice local venues in and around this area that we could have up to about 150 people, please let us know and we'll follow that up. And I also have to say then, while we're looking at venues, we've been here actually 3 years, Highcroft, and it's worked. And I say it's cheap and cheerful. I hope the management aren't listening, but I think it's time that we look and move on. I mean, we got stuff we didn't set up, we haven't got a remote, we got to keep running back to the front door to let people in. That's not good, guys, but I'm not saying we're going tomorrow, but I'm just saying that is in the pipeline, and the committee have already said that we could and should look at the possibilities of moving somewhere else. You know, a bit, sometimes the heating's not even on, to somewhere else, slightly, you know, a bit more market. We are funded, and we do get a bit of funding, so we're not looking for somewhere free. But I have to also say that I think if we had any companies, organisations who share our ethos and our message, we may well get a room free. I don't know, that's not an objective. But same with the Pavilion event, we paid from our little resources. We also got lottery funding. But again, I know Barrington was onto this, and my daughter, in terms of trying to get a sponsor. But again, along the way, if you come across anybody who's got this sort of health ethos, particularly for men, they probably will sponsor a pavilion event, it might be 3, 4, 5 grand, but here's their name blasted and they might come up and say a few words about their organisation. So please let us know if you have anybody like that we could look at sponsoring next year. Just want to say then a couple of quick things. As a group, we're refocusing. It's a new year and we're looking at things differently. So my role here, we don't get a lot of money, but I'm saying it's a lot of very time consuming. We've done these monthly events, we've done mental health workshops, we've done prostate cancer, we've done diabetes. And actually, I have to be honest with you, we have been very disappointed in the turnout. We know a community like this needs this stuff, but engaging guys is not so easy. And so we put a lot of time and effort in and had 2 people. The last mental health workshop we had Glenn and Trevor. Now, I don't think they needed any mental health workshopping. They came to set everything up. So we have been disappointed, and with our limited resources, we need to stay focused. So I'm actually going to take a step back. Glenn is going to run this particular group. We've got a group that works, a framework works. But what there's a call for is for me to set up other groups in other areas. And that's what I'm going to do. I mean, you can see on the list, Hall Green has come up, Ladywood, Hallam Rock, Horsell Heath. These are areas that feel that we could benefit. And again, it may be that, you know, we have guys coming from different areas anyway to support this group. This is in effect the parent group. We started from here and we're growing and developing from here. So that is something that it is going to happen. Inquiries from this point will be the same number. Glenn will have the number. I'm still accessible. You know, people who've got my number can still call me. There's nothing untoward about that. So we are refocusing and we're going to look at trying to expand what we're doing into other areas. One thing I missed when this agenda got put up was actually, somebody said we've got a website. We haven't got a current website. Barrington, who we engaged several months ago, he's redesigned a new website. Did you want to say anything about that, Barrington? You want to say anything about that?
What?
No, all right. Well,
I think it's good.
Well, we started off, like everything else, we started off with a website. We actually paid quite a bit for this. We didn't really get anything too tough, so we got rehashed. Barrington came on board, he's an AI guy, and he could see certain things which weren't particularly hip. And so we have had him look at redesigning something else which is more in line with the flow, you know, in terms of posting events and clips and all that sort of thing. And we will, I miss putting it on here again, but we've got a new, the old one will still stay, but we've actually come up with a new domain name. Instead of this long-winded men's health and wellbeing.co.uk, I think it's just the initials. And so people can get into those easily. We will change the emails as well accordingly, but it's a transition period. But again, if there's any feedback from the new website, please let us know. But at the moment, both will, yeah, it's up and running.
Is it interactive?
Sorry?
Interactive, means click
hopefully.
on
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if people have got pens. I mean, I can give out what the web address is, but it doesn't look like people have got pens. So I mean,
well, it's basically the acronym. So it's Men's Health and Wellbeing Group. So it's mhwg.co.uk. So it's so easy to remember in that respect.
I'll drop it in our WhatsApp group,
Yeah,
so watch for that.
Yeah.
But the old one will still be up and running. We've got a transition period. I've got a load of emails coming on the old one, so I can't afford to knock that off at the moment. But instead of going for that long-winded name, we're going just with the initials, just so people can get in quickly. But Barrington has done a great job from what I've seen in pulling that together, so thank you very much for that, Barrington. Tackle prostate cancer. Gordon, did you want to say anything about that? You were supposed to say something about the body in the course you went on.
Oh, the body in the course. It's quite good actually. It's a 2-day course in actual fact. Obviously.
Tell us what your role is going to be then.
Yeah, they feed you and look after you, but at the end of it you pass and you get the certificate. So it allows you to help people who's going through prostate, buddy them, so you can go with them and advise them, not so much tell them what to do, but just be there for them to answer any questions you need to answer and whatever. And I've done because they put you through the, you have to go for the checks, what's the DBS checks. So I've done that, past that as well. So yeah, so technically I could help you and come with you,
Of course.
advise you as best as I can, and tell
Well,
you.
you give me some good already.
Well,
I didn't even start.
Well, just me saying a bit about that course then, what it is, and this is tackled, I don't think Aidan is here, but what Gordon went on, which I'm so pleased that we got, you know, somebody from our group in that, is where they've done him some training and he actually can body up with somebody going through the prostate journey. I mean,
Yeah.
Gordon has been through that himself and they actually want people who have been in that journey to support other guys.
Is that the same as the peer-to-peer coaching?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
that's
peer
it,
coaching,
yeah.
yeah.
And so
Oh, okay.
what they can do, they can go with guys to hospital and appointments and all that, just as moral support. So thanks Gordon for, you know, stepping up on
Yeah,
that.
it's worth doing it if if it's something that you're interested in doing, and it's, you know, we've all been through the same troubles and tribulations with it. So it is worth it if you're not shy and you're not
Alright.
afraid to talk to people and advise people. It's good.
You're still on the floor on this, Gordon. Gordon spoke to me this afternoon and he mentioned bowel cancer. And Gordon, do you want to say a few words about that, please?
Okay, I mean, the only thing is I think it's just as important as anything else. And I think it's one of these things that men, A, don't talk about and B, don't do. Comes through the post, so it's not hard.
Yeah.
But how many men are going to actually go to the toilet, do what they want to do, wipe the stick and put it in the bucket? They ain't going to go through all that. But the thing is, I was listening to a program. I've done it twice now. So I'm not going to die for the sake of getting poo on my hands, because I can wash my hands. I was on a program this morning where the guy did it and he actually had bowel cancer, and luckily for him, it wasn't, they caught it early, and he only had keyhole surgery, nothing else, and they took out the cancer because part of his bowel was cancerous, and he said it's the best thing he's ever done for that one little poo test.
Well, what Gordon's talking about, guys, is that I think a lot of people at a certain age will get, they call it bowel cancer screening. So a little box comes through, you've got to put some poo on a stick and send it off. And what Gordon was saying, me and Gordon had a chat about this. The thing is, we're desperately waiting for prostate cancer screening and some sort of testing. But
That
this
got turned down. Remember the
Yeah.
next day after our thing?
Yeah, I'll touch back on that.
Oh.
And the thing was, this one is already in place. What me and Gordon were saying, this is in place and we're not responding. So, you know, it's coming through your door, people aren't following it through, so you're not testing for cancer. The biggest thing affecting our communities and our countries, cancers in one form or the other. So here's something already in place and we're not responding. So, you know, take it seriously, that's what he's saying. If that's sent through, please get it back and get it checked out.
I've done it.
So it's,
I've been doing it for the last 10, 15 years, to be fair. It comes through, every year it comes, and as Gordon say, you just go to the toilet, do what you need to do, and then stick it back in the post.
easy,
That's
guys,
it. End of
easy,
story.
easy.
I've done it.
I mean,
twice.
I think maybe the phobia is, they might pick up cancer, but hey, what if they pick it up later? You've got no chance. You know what I mean? We're too long.
Pick it up early, you got a chance.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Gordon. One of the things I've come across, and I think we've spoke about it, hopefully I'm going to fix this, you know, maybe Barrington might help me on this, is actually we were talking about the NHS app that's on your phone with your medical records. And again, some people said they were struggling to get that app sorted, and I came across somebody, a guys at Whitton Lodge, and I saw them in the week actually, and hopefully I'll see them tomorrow. But that's one of the training sessions they're doing, and hopefully I'm going to get them to come back. It's not as straightforward as it used to be. The guys who did it in the beginning, it was dead easy. Now you've got to do all
It's good though.
You've got to do all sorts of ID and all sorts of things, but it's worth having.
Yeah.
In the absence of, there's Jackie, us being able to see any GPs, you've got access to your medical records on your phone, and I think there's a move that we need to be doing that.
Yeah, and the greatest thing is when repeat prescriptions, you haven't got to go down there
Yeah.
and drop it off. And
You can do it all
that.
through your phone.
You do it. It takes me
Brilliant.
5 minutes to do it on my phone,
Brilliant.
and then you get the chemist sends you a text to say they've
Yeah, to
got
pick
the
it up.
prescription.
Well, I do think that that's going to be the way forward. We're not going to be able to go back on that. That in the absence of being able to see GPs, I think we're going to need to do that, guys. So when I put that session up, hopefully people are going to buy into that who haven't got it. I must confess, I'm IT literate. There's quite a few little twists to the whole thing, and I'm very suspicious. You know, like in terms of Big Brother, they need your driving license, put it by your face. They need to write some numbers, and I'm thinking, If I was a terrorist and got to the airport, they might say, can you write 1290? And if it doesn't come up the same as what's on the record, could you please come this way? So that's me, but I'm saying don't let that distract you. I think there's nowhere for us to go with a lot of this stuff now. And we're always looking for other speakers. So again, if we have you guys come across anybody that think will make an interesting speaker here, please do bring them on board. We are saying as well, while we talk about a lot of topical issues, I've also realised a lot of things which are around health and well-being. We should be talking about modern parenting. I'm talking about leisure. I'm talking about exercise. I'm talking about all sorts of things which inadvertently are health and well-being related. So it's not necessarily a guest speaker like Paul. You know, it might be somebody coming to talk about parenting, about drug addiction, around whatever. So again, along the way, it's not all about us. If you guys come across anybody, which some guys do that, but I want to encourage more guys to pass respective speakers on to us, and we'll follow it up from there. I've got a comfort break. We've started late. I'm going to let Mr. Paul kick off. Yeah, as I said, we missed him at Pavilion, but we're not going to miss him this time, Paul. So you're on. Paul, I'll give him a round of applause, please.
I like jokes, and I thought I'll just start with a couple, medical ones. Are you ready? 2 blood vessels fell in love, but alas, it was in vain. How about this one? I went to the library for a medical book on abdominal pain, and somebody had ripped the appendix out. I think that one's a better one. Oh. When it comes to diabetes, I'm a retired pastor. That's how he made the connection between the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I joined the Seventh-day Church as a pastor. It's a long time ago. I was 34 years as a pastor before I retired. But there's a lady, Jackie will know her very well, called Grace Walsh. She's retired now, but she was a nurse. But she wasn't just a nurse. She was a nurse, a trained nurse as well. So she was a bit higher up there in that regard. And she was asked to help out at our church headquarters with regard to health matters. So she was working that area, and she went to the States. And she met a guy over there who's in small print, you can't see it, right? Stephen Wickham, right? He was a Seventh-day Adventist nurse as well. So, of course, they hit, good friendship between the two of them. And what was interesting is what happened, because she learned from him. He was so fed up. You making that reference about what the NHS don't do in helping people to try and reverse diabetes. In the hospital he worked in, they weren't doing anything, as it was giving metformin to people, not just medication. And so he started to do a program, and he gave it to her to bring back and said, you can use it. And that's how it all started for us. She gave it to me. I was a pastoring then up in the Nottingham area, and one of our churches I was looking after there were always very active in doing things in the community. So they wanted something to do with health, and we thought, well, this is new. So we ran it, and I finished up then editing it all to make it English. And that's how I really got interested in it myself. And we've done quite a few programs since, but I'm not running that tonight, right? What I'll be talking about tonight are little things that will introduce you to it in that regard. So let me start off. There are 12.1 million people in the United Kingdom, right, that are living with diabetes. With a 66 million population thereabouts. So, that's a high percentage. And by the way, in the United States of America, it's 26 million. That is more than 6% of the adult population. And among senior citizens, the figure rises to 27%, right? Also, in the United Kingdom, it's estimated that there is another 12 million people, that's 12%. So if you add that to the previous figure of 12, now you're in 24 million, right? They have what's called pre-diabetes, right? So these are people whose blood sugar levels are actually high enough to damage their heart, their arteries, their brains, their kidneys, and nerves. And the thing is, the majority of those people don't know they are pre-diabetic. You know, there is a percentage of them that they do know because they found out, you know, as a result of tests with the doctor and so on. But there's a huge number of people that have it and don't realise it. Now, the dangers that diabetes do pose, I'll just list them very briefly. They'll come up again on the screen later, right? Diabetes is a leading cause of kidney failure. It's also a leading cause of amputation of lower limbs, right? It's also a major cause of heart disease and stroke. Between 60 and 70% of diabetics have nervous system damage, right? Which can actually result in feeling pain, loss of feeling as well, right? Problematic digestion, also other increased risk of other complications. In women, for instance, even spontaneous abortions could result from it, right? Diabetics are more prone to suffer colds, influenza, pneumonia, and diabetics are twice as likely as any other person to suffer from depression. So it doesn't just affect people physically, it can actually affect you emotionally too. Now, fortunately, 90% can actually avoid developing type 2. You know, and those that do have it can actually begin to reduce, as we heard from Derek, the complications and possibly even reverse it, right? By just practicing some simple guidelines to health. Guidelines that do require some commitment. You've got to sort of, you know, really have a go at some of these things, but they're not overwhelming. They're not that difficult. You know, things to do with diet, things to do with exercise, things to do with relaxation, making sure you sleep and so on. This topic tonight, though, is more of an introduction. So it'll guide you into the sense for something that, you know, you need to attend if you are a type 2 diabetic at a later stage. But the interesting question then is, well, why is diabetes on the rise? Why is it rising? And it steadily has been rising for quite some time. Back in 2020, we heard of what? COVID, right? And it was also called a pandemic. Why? Because it spread. Diabetes type 2 is considered worldwide pandemic because the numbers are rising rapidly, not just here in the UK, in America, but also parts of the world too, right? In the past 10 years alone, the percentage of people ages 65 or older who have the disease have increased from 14.5% to 27%. That's doubled, isn't it? And that is an increase, I say, more than 50% in just 10 years. So it means that 1 in every 4 people aged 65 or older are diabetic. Why? Right? That's the question. And of course, you know, it's worse than things like, you know, heart disease, cancer and stroke. Those things, some of those things are actually declining in numbers. But diabetes is going up the other way. The genetic pool, of course, hasn't really changed that much. So what is it that's causing it? And generally speaking, type 2 diabetes is linked to lifestyle matters. Obesity, a sedentary lifestyle, smoking, a low intake of dietary fibre. I'll say more about that. A high intake of saturated fats and also trans fats. Also a high intake of refined carbohydrates, and those are things like white bread, etc. You know, you can number that with us. Think of all the pastry things you're eating, and nearly all of them are made from what? White flour, refined. And on top of that, you've got snack foods, sugar, sweeteners, and soft drinks. And 90% at least of all type 2 diabetics are linked to those things. So there are some people that, you know, they're not connected to it. There's some other reason, right? But the majority, it is. So let's just think about today's lifestyle, right? and the factors in more detail. People today consume an awful lot of fast foods, don't they? These are highly refined, right? They contain a high percentage of trans fats, saturated fats, as well as calories, and also sugar. And foods also, you may have heard of the glycemic index. They are high on that scale, which for today's, I won't explain it. That's a complicated one for a later time, right? But chips, white bread, white buns, soft drinks, they all fit that category. And responsible organisations in the world are actually pointing out as well as a second thing that more than 60% of the adult population, so therefore if there's 20 people in here, there are 12 people in this room, right, at least, that fit into that, are sedentary. In other words, they don't get any regular physical activity. I might be talking to somebody at this moment of time, particularly about that. And things have changed a bit. They haven't got any figures out at the moment I can find, but the average UK individual a few years ago was spending 28 hours a week watching television. How many hours are you on your tablet? When you add that to it now, and that really concerns with young people. When we were kids, many of them in this room, and you were at school, what did you do in playtime? What are they doing today when you drive past the school playgrounds? So people, generally are just not getting enough physical activity to protect them from obesity and diabetes. 6 million, which is 10% of the population of adults, smoke, and that's a major risk factor, right? Also, I mentioned already, most eat white bread and other refined cereals. Listen to this, in the UK, only 17% of adults and 9% of children, that's between the age of 11 and 18, right, actually eat the recommended 3 servings of whole grains on a daily basis. And then this is a staggering figure. Well, let me ask you, let's see if you know. What percentage would you give for the number of adults in the UK that are overweight? What would you give? What would you guess?
60%.
60%? Who said that?
I do.
Go to the top of the class. Right, it's actually 64%, but you're close enough. I mean, that's staggering, isn't it, to think, that excess fat is an actual primary risk factor for type 2 diabetes. Right? And believe it or not, the average teenager consumes, listen, this is average, right, somewhere around about 30 to 34 teaspoons of sugar daily. And the primary source of that is soft drinks, right? Okay? And of course, the number of soft drinks that people drink does correlate to the risk of diabetes. I am coming back to sugar shortly. You'll see we've got something there that looks like it. So with obesity trends continuing to worsen each year, the number of cases of diabetes is expected to continue to rise. And they actually estimate that by the time today's children reach late adulthood, 1 in 3 of them will be a type 2 diabetic, unless things change. Now, I know it's a bit of a small screen, so you may not be able to read all of that. But here's just a little list. And you might, as I read through them, tick the box or cross the box. Right? Cross means it's not me, but tick the box means it is. Number 1, being overweight or obese. In other words, having a body mass index, a BMI of 25 or more. Right? And by the way, if you don't know what your BMI is, you can look on the NHS website and you'll find a health assessment tool there to find out what it is, right? Secondly is having a parent or brother or a sister who is a diabetic. There can be a link genetically. Also, being of different ethnic origins, there is a higher risk. I'm afraid for the majority of you in this room, you're more likely to pick up on type 2 diabetes at an earlier age than people of my colour. It's more. I think it's around about 30, whereas with people my colour, it's more around the age 40. I don't know the reason for that personally. In fact, I haven't come across the statistics. Although I wonder it's a lot to do with lifestyle. But anyway, maybe one day they'll state why. But it's, you know, Asian people, Hispanic, Latino, there's also a higher risk there. Having a history of what's called gestational diabetes, smoking, I mentioned already, being 45 years or older, or having a poor diet, which I've been talking about. Right, so if you put obviously a tick on any of those things, then that actually gives you then that risk factor that you could possibly become either or are already a pre-diabetic or become a type 2 diabetic.
What's gestational diabetes?
Sorry?
What's the gestational by diabetes?
Where's our doctor? Go on then.
Yes, gestational diabetes is for women who are pregnant. A certain percentage they develop diabetes during pregnancy, and once they've delivered, typically that diabetes will disappear.
Yeah.
But in a few, it persists.
Yeah, it can come back again with, in that case. My wife had it. Yeah, but she never got it again. But yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Right, let's change track a little bit, right? Let's talk about sugar for a moment, right? Sugar is a sweet danger. Where does sugar come from? You know, it's natural, isn't it? Right? It comes from sugar cane. Well, that's true. Only at first does it come from sugar cane, but then it becomes this processed chemical that's not found anywhere in nature. An author called Dr. David Rubin says white refined sugar is not a food. And he goes on, it's a pure chemical extracted from plant sources, purer in fact than cocaine, which it resembles in many ways. Its true name, he says, is sucrose. Cocaine, you've heard of that, is very addictive, and it causes a lot of problems for human beings. Could sugar be like cocaine on the human body? And according to brain scans, sugar is as addictive as cocaine. Refining means that to make it pure by a process of extraction. Sugar is refined by taking a natural food, sugar cane, right, or even sugar beet, that contains a high percentage of sugar and then removes all the elements of the food that's in it until it becomes a pure chemical. Sugar is all that remains. And during that refining process, 64 food elements, can you believe it? 64 food elements are destroyed. Potassium, magnesium, calcium, iron, manganese, phosphate, sulfate. And that includes vitamin A, D, B vitamins destroyed. And we call that pure. Right? It's basically a pure white chemical that's added to food. And you know, it actually becomes a robber as well to our human body because it's so pure. You know, but basically, as I take it into my body to be able to metabolize it, to be able to use it, right, I need what's been taken out of it. And so what happens is your body and my body will actually pull nutrients out of my bones and tissues and muscles to be able to metabolize it, right? So vitamins, B vitamins that it takes would be vitamin B1, thiamine, vitamin B2, riboflavin, vitamin 3, niacin, and even vitamin C is actually pulled out of the body to metabolize pure white sugar. And not just the vitamins, but also the minerals and other ingredients, you know, other nutrients are being pulled out of our body. Calcium gets leached out of our bones and teeth. Sugar, of course, you know, is acidic, isn't it? It rots your teeth, right? And of course, that's why the calcium's taken out to help to neutralize that acidity. So, of course, you know, it takes the calcium out of our teeth and when we eat large amounts of it. And these nutritional deficiencies then, of course, would lead to what you call eating binges. You You know, because you really need something, you then eat stuff to try and get it, right? Because our body craves nutrients. So if you live on a nutrient-poor diet, your body craves those nutrients, so you get attracted to food that your body thinks has the nutrients, and so you eat more. See how that links to getting overweight? And it has nothing to do with calories in that regard. It's to do with, this issue. So you could say then that sugar is a poison when it's consumed in high doses. But sugary foods often replace more healthful foods, don't they? Diets high in sugar almost certainly contribute to what's called osteoporosis, cancer, and heart disease. And a lady called Marion Nestle says there are a lot of diseases being caused by the amount of sugar that people are eating in their diet. Believe it or not, if you go back to the early 1800s, okay, people were skinny in comparison to today. They ate, though, around 10 pounds of sugar a year. Their diet was limited on sugar. On average, today, we are eating somewhere in the region of 130 pounds of sugar each per year. And some of us even more. If you took a family photo, you can see the difference between then and now. We Brits eat too much, exercise too little. We're addicted to sugar, which not only makes us fatter, but, after that initial sugar rush, also then saps our energy. Kids, you see when they have a sugar thing, how they become really active, but then it has the opposite effect. And the reason that you're watching TV is not just because TV is good then, is it? You've no energy to exercise because you are eating too much sugar. You just sit there. Now, we Brits are getting, they say, somewhere in the region of 12 to 15% of our calories from sugar. In America, they say it's 25%, so it's even worse there. So, up to 1/4 of our diet is just this white, pure chemical. It's not a food. It's a chemical. And the NHS recommends that we have only 5% of our calories from sugar. But some of us need to cut back by half, by 2/3 even. So let's just do a little exercise. Look at some sugar content of some popular foods, right? And it's important, in this regard, if you are, pre-diabetic or you are type 2, make sure you look at the labels on stuff. See what's in there. You'd be shocked sometimes, right? Because then you can see how much sugar's been added. And there is, in many things, a lot of sugar added. I've been shocked sometimes when I've seen what some things have in them. So it's actually recommended that you don't have any more than 8 teaspoons of sugar a day in total. Less than that's even better. Okay? So let's do a little exercise, right? I've got a glass jar, pint jar, right, and a jar full of sugar. Let's just pretend, right, that this is what I have for my diet. For some of you, it could be worse than what I'm going to do. Some of you, it'd be a little less, but just imagine, right? So wake up in the morning, we have breakfast, and let's say we have a cup of tea, or we might have a cup of coffee, right? I don't know about you, but maybe you're a person that likes to have 2 teaspoons of sugar in your cup of coffee at breakfast time. Then you might say, well, I'll have a bowl of cereal. So let's say something that's not all bran. A 30-gram serving. Believe it or not, there's a teaspoon of sugar in that. Now, I won't add any more than that, but some of you put sugar on your breakfast. Okay? Then it comes to lunchtime, right? And, you're not having dinner, you're just having lunch because you're at work or whatever, okay? So you have a can of Coke. Now, this could vary slightly. Some of them have got 9 teaspoons in them. But I'll be good. Let's just have one that's only got 7 in. So we have this can of Coke. How many is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And maybe have a cheese sandwich. No, let's have a small tin of baked beans. You know these small tins of baked beans? You know, how many teaspoons do you think might be in a small tin of baked beans? Well done. There are 2 teaspoons of sugar in a small tin of baked beans. Right? You might finish up. Let's have a Mars bar. Okay? Right, you ready? Counting. 1, 2. That's how many's in the Mars bar. 5. Okay, gets the evening meal now. You can have your dinner. Right? And let's suppose you finish off with a nice slice of cake. Well, you know, this will vary a lot. Depends on what it's made from. But let's be in the middle road somewhere. Let's say 3 teaspoons. Okay? And you might finish again with another cup of coffee or a cup of tea. So there's your 2 teaspoons there, okay? But I haven't dealt with the drinks during the day, have I? So let's suppose you have a mid-morning drink, okay? So there's another 2 teaspoons in. A mid-afternoon drink, that's another 2 teaspoons, okay? And I don't know if you go to bed and I like to enjoy a drinking chocolate, you know, but that's 1.5. You might have a pint of beer as well, you know. Do you know how much is in a pint of beer? 2.5. Does that absolutely surprise you?
For the day.
For one day. And the recommendation was how many teaspoons? 8. You know, when you think about it, how does that make you feel? You know, probably sick in some respect, right? You know, but you know, and just summarise at this point, and then we'll come back to looking at, well, how does diabetes start? A large amount of sugar actually has an effect on your immune system, right? And just to move on, it suppresses it. It weakens the immune system, right? And here, you can't see it very well, but this actually shows how on the left, the amount of sugar eaten at one time in teaspoons, 0. The number of bacteria that's destroyed by 1 white blood cell, 14. But as you increase the sugar, like a banana split, it only then destroys 1 bacteria. It affects the immune system in that regard as well. Right. Any questions so far?
Yeah, brown sugar, does that make any difference at all?
Of course, you've got honey as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
They are slightly better because they have more nutrients in them. So from that perspective, you bet if you're going to use sugar, rather than using white, using brown would be better. But it's still also good to notice, well, how much still are you using? Because we still could be using far too much brown sugar as well.
Yeah, when you're using brown sugar, how many, you don't use only for tea and things like that, you don't have sugar in it.
But I'm saying if you use brown sugar instead of white sugar,
In tea.
you know, it is better for you, but you're still also using
Sugar.
The point is, it's still too much sugar. It is better for you because there's more nutrients in it, but it's still far too much. So it's no good excuse just to replace what you're having with white sugar with brown sugar. You need to be finding a way to cut it back on sugar, full stop, whether it's brown or white for that matter. Yeah. And the
What
same
about
applies to honey.
things like pineapple and dates, they're full of sugar in there.
But it's natural, and it's got all the nutrients with it, right? And what?
Doesn't hurt the sugar.
But are they included in the 7 teaspoon?
No, no, we're talking about this sugar. Right?
Oh, okay.
With natural sugars, we're moving on to something which we don't spend a lot of time on now. But as a diabetic, don't drink apple juice. Eat an apple. Drink water, right? Because without the fibre, the sugar content in that apple juice gets absorbed into your bloodstream like lightning. That puts your blood sugar glucose up. You need insulin, right? In that regard. Whereas if you eat the apple, that sugar gets absorbed very slowly into the body because the fibre holds on to it. You see why now taking not enough fibre in the diet has a link with diabetes, because we're not, digesting our food in a slow way that we ought to be doing, so it keeps the energy going through the whole day. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't use sugar, but I use honey in my tea.
Okay. Well, honey again, like brown, right? Like brown sugar, is better. It's got more nutrients in it, right? So from that perspective, it's better for you. But again, how much are you having? When you consider all the other sugar you might be having as well, it's still a sweetener, which is not, it's more natural, but it still also adds to that sugar content when you add it to all the rest. You with me? Yeah.
What about natural sweeteners like stevia? Do they count in the Insulin?
There's still a lot of questions about those. They are starting to notice, I think, in the scientific world, that there are issues starting to be found in regard to sweeteners, even the natural sweeteners. But as a diabetic, have we actually got a diabetic amongst us? Anybody who is type 2? Nobody? Oh, we're a couple, okay.
I'm probably on the borderline.
Okay, you're on the borderline. What a sweetener does, it tricks the brain, right? Because you take this drink, which is a sweetener, there's no sugar in it, it's got a sweetener in it, it tastes sweet. So what happens, the brain says, hey, pancreas, sugar's coming. Put out some insulin. Well, of course, no sugar comes. So it lies to the body. And that then means, you're putting out far more insulin, which you don't want, because a type 2 diabetic, you've got far too much insulin in the body. You're not a type 1. Type 1s don't have insulin. You stop producing it. You become resistant to it. And because there's so much of it there, the cells of the body, right, are fed up of it, come knocking on the door and telling, open your door, we need to give you some sugar. And so they shut up. Yeah, they won't open. And so you've got all of this sugar going around in the bloodstream, and it can't get rid of it. That's in a simple nutshell explaining it in that regard. What happens. And that's why fat is also a very, well, perhaps you wouldn't say number one, but it's up there as one of the reasons why you become resistant to insulin, because fat blocks up the cells of the body's doors. They become stuck in a sense.
Yeah, because I was watching.
So they won't open to let the blood sugar in.
What should you eat? And the saturated fat in ham, and it just puts me off the whole lot. It's total rubbish. Sausages, bacon, I wouldn't even touch it again.
Okay.
Horrible. So, yeah.
I mean, I could answer that, but we're going down a route, which let me say, when we've done the reversing diabetes, we could spend a whole evening's program just talking about that one. I don't know one that's going to be taking place in the near future, except I can tell you now, on the first Friday in April, in the afternoon from 2 o'clock till 4, I'm not sure which hour it'll be, whether it be 2 till 3 or 3 till 4, on the radio Hope FM, which is on digital in Birmingham area. Grace Walsh and I will be doing a reversing type 2 diabetes program. So that's the 3rd of April, okay? So you may want to jot that down. I've got a leaflet here about it, not about the reversing diabetes, but about the radio station, and it reminds you about it.
That's my programme.
Well, you like listening to Hope FM?
No, I'm doing a reverse diabetes programme.
Oh, you're actually following one, are you?
No, I'm actually running it.
You're running one?
Yes.
Oh, very good, okay. Right. We'll have to listen to ours and see
Absolutely.
and see if you learn anything as well, and you that you can add to yours as well. Yeah, so where are you doing that?
Winter Lodge.
Okay.
It's a cross Birmingham programme that's happening citywide to help put type 2 diabetes into remission.
Okay, right. So who's behind that one?
Birmingham City Council.
Birmingham City Council. Okay. All right. I've heard about that. It's a new one to me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. How much longer have I got?
Loads, Glenn said loads.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep going a bit then.
It's a 12-week program crammed into 3 hours.
Well, let me spend just a few moments now talking about.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I just want to know, what's the difference between the brown and the white sugar then?
Brown and white sugar. Well, as I say, basically, brown sugar's got when they process the sugar cane or the sugar beet, right? They take everything out, so you got this pure stuff, this white stuff, right? So basically, what they've done, they've taken some of the stuff they've taken out and put it back in.
In the brown sugar.
So in other words, you know, I'm sure some of you West Indians would know it. That dark brown molasses.
Yeah.
They put some of the molasses back in.
In the brown sugar, to make it brown.
And that, yeah, that's what gives it the colour, okay, in that regard. So that in a sort of nutshell, more or less, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up, I'll be honest, I haven't got a great memory. Brown sugar is basically white sugar plus a bit of molasses.
Yeah.
And the nutrient difference is tiny, it's got a few trace minerals. And the impact on your blood sugar is the same really, because it's mainly sucrose and it has the same insulin response. So the bottom line is brown sugar is not really healthier. It's basically white sugar with wearing a brown coat.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Like I said, it's slightly better, but you're making it even, it's not even as good even as what we thought it might be as well. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, from that perspective, molasses, when you think about it, would probably be better than honey, because it's got more nutrients in it. You know what I mean? Although I'm not encouraging you to start using molasses, because that's very sweet, isn't it? You know.
You've got an aftertaste as well.
You know, I like to make my Christmas cakes, you know, good old English Christmas cake with lots of, well, I think you West Indians, you like to add a bit of brandy to yours, don't you? Rum, is it? Yeah. You know, and, you know, I always like to put black treacle in, you know, as well. I think it gives it a bit of colour, but yeah, anyway, we'll pass on from that. Right, let me have a chat now about understanding what diabetes is, okay? I gave you a little picture of it in a nutshell when I talked about, you know, the cell doors and so on. But let's put it in a more practical sense. The cells of our bodies depend on sugar, right? To live, to be able to survive, they need glucose, we call it, right? For energy. And your digestive processes, right, takes glucose from carbohydrates, okay? The glucose then enters your bloodstream, and that carries then to all the cells of your body through, as it goes all the way around, okay? And it gets converted then into energy that the muscles need so they can work. Our brains also need it to be able to think. And other cells need it so they can synthesize proteins and build new tissues and so on, like making blood cells, okay? Now, of course, as you know, there are very intricate mechanisms in our bodies, aren't they? And they need the glucose level in the bloodstream, so they don't want it to be dropping too low, nor do they want it to go too high, okay? So, for instance, when we eat carbohydrates and the level of glucose in our bloodstream rises, then our bodies then tell the pancreas, make insulin, okay? And it's a hormone, basically, right? It instructs the cells to open the doors, does that hormone, to tell them to take in glucose. If the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin, or the body is resistant to that insulin, then the glucose level of the bloodstream rises above what it should be, while at the same time the cells through the body are starving for glucose and energy. So when we become resistant to it, you know, they're not opening the doors. Because they're not opening the doors, they're getting starving, and yet it can't get in. If the blood sugar level rises too high, the brain, the eyes, the kidneys, the arteries, and the immune system can be damaged. And if the blood sugar level falls too low, the brain and certain other key organs that require the glucose then don't work well at all. So it can be, for instance, hard to concentrate, hard to be able to think. All right, you could actually start to feel emotional or anxious as well. Now, without you doing anything, your body will sense this drop in the level of blood sugar, and it signals, right, the liver and the muscles to release what's called the glucose that they've stored. It's called glycogen, right? Now, that helps for a while when they release it, but the body stores only enough glucose to last just a few hours. And if the glucose level isn't restored to normal, then the body, what it does then, it breaks down protein. So in other words, the protein stores in the muscles to produce glucose, and that of course causes less muscle tissue. High blood glucose levels as well also lead to gain in weight. When we eat, remember, the pancreas detects the rise of blood glucose and responds by releasing insulin. The body clears away that glucose then by storing it in the liver and the muscle tissues. But if they are full of glycogen already, right, and our blood still contains more glucose than is needed, what happens? Fat cells convert that excess into fat and store it. That stops the blood sugars levels from getting too high and so causing damage to the body. But what also will happen is that it will cause the body to produce too much fat in the blood. They're called triglycerides. And too much low density lipoprotein, which is in short LDL cholesterol. That is not the good cholesterol, remember? And that clogs the arteries, causes heart disease. And it also lessens the good kind of cholesterol, the HDL, which normally helps to prevent heart disease. And that explains why most diabetics, 68% of them, they say, actually do suffer from heart disease. Now, there are two primary types of diabetes, right? Type 1 and type 2. Probably most of you know the difference between them already, but just in a nutshell, type 1 usually is often called juvenile diabetes. Basically, they are not producing any insulin. But it can also happen when a shock comes to the body. So it isn't something that happens just to young people, right? My daughter, she's in her early 40s, when COVID came along, got COVID, and is now a type 1 diabetic. A shock to the system, like something like, a virus like that, can actually cause type 1 diabetes. So, sometimes you come across people who get type 1 because of that. Fortunately, it's not huge numbers, but it does happen. So that's type 1, right? Type 2, I've mentioned already, 90% of the total of diabetics have type 2. So the full total, 90% of them are type 2. And the problem isn't a lack of insulin there. The problem there is because the body's become resistant to the insulin. The pancreas tries to adapt by producing more insulin than normal. That begins to help for a while, but if the body's cells continue to be resistant to the insulin, in other words, the insulin keeps knocking at their doors, but they say, we don't want it anymore, go away, right? Then the continual demand for more insulin will exhaust the pancreas. And so the glucose levels will then continue to climb. Now, what causes the body to become resistant to insulin? Well, it's not actually fully understood. Scientifically, they can't explain it fully. We know that certain conditions are linked to insulin resistance. One we've already mentioned, and they put it as number 1, excess body fat, right? As body fat levels go up, so does the insulin resistance. But there are sometimes some people who are type 2 diabetic who are not obese, and yet they become type 2 diabetic. They think that might be a link genetically. In other words, because it's in the family and that's why they got it, okay? But it's unclear, okay, as to why. But listen to this. This is fascinating. There was a study done of 195,000 people found the risk of developing diabetes increases dramatically as body weight increased. Compared to those in the normal weight range, so in other words, they had a BMI of less than 25, right? The people who were overweight, a BMI of 25 to 29, were twice as likely to develop the disease. Those that were obese, that's a BMI between 30 and 34, were between 3 and 4 times more likely. And those that were very obese, 35 plus BMI, were 6 times more likely.
What about the difference in male and female fat then?
There is a slight difference, but it still gets more, right? Statistically, it's slightly different, but not much. Yeah, yeah. Right, so let's just... Factors associated with increased insulin resistance. And I'll close with this, okay? Excess body fat, right? So this is summarising some of the things I've said. An excess body fat, a BMI greater than 25. So one's risk climbs dramatically with a BMI of 30 or more. And it can drop as one begins to lose weight. A sedentary lifestyle, right, mentioned already, exercise significantly reduces insulin resistance. On that, in Canada, an experiment was done, right, on athletes. And just in a nutshell, basically what they found out was when they actually exercised, they continued to burn blood glucose sugar up to, I think it was 4 hours after the exercise stopped. It continued for another half an hour at full level, but continued going up to 4 hours later in a smaller amount. Exercise does have an impact. A diet that's high in trans fats, saturated fats, cholesterol, which is, of course, these are all found in red meats, high fat dairy products, and fast foods. And then a diet that's low in fibre, that's the last one on the bottom there, that's high in refined carbohydrates, white flour. How many of you eat white bread? 3 of you. You know, I encourage you to start getting, you know, whole wheat bread. Now, you may not like it, so go for the half and half one. There's a 50-50 one. It's a mixture of both.
What about brown bread?
What?
Brown bread.
Well, I was saying brown bread, it's a bit like, it's got a little bit more added to it, but it's still not 100%. It's an improvement than white. It's a good step forward. You could go from that, go to granary, then from granary to wholemeal.
What about high-seeded bread?
Well, again, it's good because you've got the seeds, but it's not whole wheat flour. It's usually this mixture one. I forget now. It varies. Some can be 75%, some be 50% of the whole wheat flour.
That's what I eat, the high-seed bread.
But it is better than just white bread, definitely. Yeah, and you get all the good nutrients from the seeds as well. Yeah. Okay. Right. So, yeah. Remember, these are the things that it can cause. Type 2 diabetes, an increased risk for high blood pressure, increased risk for nerve damage, HDL, high LDL blood cholesterol levels, which can increase the risk of heart disease, high blood fats, triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, both of which increase the risk of heart disease, eye damage, diabetes is a major cause of eye trouble, kidney damage, diabetes is a major cause of kidney failure, also suppressed immune system function, resulting in increased risk of infection. Limb amputation, necessitated by damage to the arteries and legs, poor circulation and increased risk of infection. Also Alzheimer's disease, and lastly, many cancers, because blood glucose levels climb, so does insulin, which in large amounts is a cancer promoter.
You know, if you've got a sweet tooth.
Sorry again?
You know when you've got a sweet tooth.
When you've got a sweet tooth, yeah.
How do you get rid of it then? If that's the case.
I have a sweet tooth. I've always loved sugary stuff. I mean,
Me too.
when I was a teenager, you know, well, put it this, let's start this way. When I was at school, I was given the job, I forget how much they paid now, it was back in the days of shillings and pennies, you know, to help clear up after the physics and chemistry classes. You know, I did that. So I got so much every month. Well, that was good. I think it was about £5 a month or something like I got. Or I forget it was something like that. So I was always buying sweets. I loved hard licorice, you know, those sticks of hard licorice. Yeah. And you know, bags of those jelly babies, you know, the wine gums one, you know. So I was always, you know, a lot of sugar in that regard. I've not become a type 2 diabetic, not I'm aware of it at the moment, but I've learned a lot since then that you need to control it. You've literally got to say no, right? But I like the treat, so I will have 2 pieces of chocolate, just 2 pieces, not a bar, 2 pieces, right? In that regard, you know, and also, you know, be careful when you have it. It's better during the day, midday, for instance, rather than at night time, in that regard. And making sure you get exercise, because that helps you to burn it off as well, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's a matter of, you know, changing your taste, eating things that, you know, I mean, because you've got a sweet tooth, would you eat an orange as it is?
I love orange.
You do? Okay, that's interesting then. How about
I have fruits every day.
Have you tried a lemon?
Yeah, I have lemon in the
And you like lemon? Fresh lemon?
I don't know about liking it, but I have.
Well, that's interesting that you can do that and yet still have a sweet, because people who've got a very sweet tooth won't go for those, you know, things that are acidic like that, like oranges and so on. Because
oranges are beautiful.
Yeah, well, I love oranges too. Yeah. No, I'm afraid it's just a matter of just controlling it. You know. Maybe, are you married?
Me?
Yeah.
I was married.
You are? Okay, so you haven't got a wife at home. You say somebody like that at home could also help you, you know. What are you doing? Leave it alone. You said you're not having it, you know. Getting some help from somebody else can be good. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
It still goes down to me. Exercises, being mobile.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, burning it off. I mean, because like, I like sweets, and bars and all that kind of thing. But they'll tell you that I'm always active.
Yeah.
I'm always active.
It's still, you still need to be cautious though, because as your point, as you told me with the sugar there, how much sugar you could be taking in. And I've already explained how it's not good for our systems. So, you know, I think actually probably hearing that, maybe seeing something like that might help to say, I need to cut back. Instead of having a whole Mars bar, have half for one, and have half tomorrow. At least it's cutting back, isn't it?
It's more than that anyway.
Sorry? Well, that's true. Yeah. That's
the right set of things. I've got a friend who just lost his 2 legs to diabetes, so I ain't eating sugar none at all.
Okay. And that sometimes is a trigger for some of them that helps us.
Yeah, but that's the key to it.
Yeah.
Every time I look at a Mars bar, I remember my mate.
Okay.
So forget it.
Yeah. And you know, canned drinks can be very high in sugar.
Yeah, I know.
You know, especially if you think about young people, that's what they have. You know, they go to school in the morning, they haven't even had any breakfast, and what the first thing they're doing is buying a can of something, you know, right? And they're not going to be buying one that's, you know, diet, are they?
Yeah, but isn't the diet worse than the actual?
Oh, I do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There is a question mark in regards to sweeteners, and they begin to see that they're actually not as good as they thought they were.
I did a no sugar challenge, and I lasted 10 days.
Okay, we managed 10 days.
But who's monitoring that though? How are we going to monitor? We don't know what you're doing.
No, I'm saying I lasted 10 days to do it myself, innit? But what done it? Because I thought that rum was sugar, but technically they said it's not.
They say drink a lot of rum.
They said it's not got sugar in it, but it is a processed carbohydrate.
Right.
So.
Well, I like great rum, so I know stuff.
If somebody regularly goes to the pub, yeah?
Goes to the pub, yeah.
And have a pint every night, how much sugar would that beer consist of?
Well, it varies, of course, with the different beers, but, you know, the one I showed was, you know, on average, it's about 2.5 teaspoons for each pint.
Okay.
Which is not a huge amount in comparison to getting a can of Coke,
right.
In that regard, yeah.
But you know, when you're talking about the carbohydrates, there's sugar in that.
Well, it's just a carbohydrate, yeah.
It's how do you work out how many sugar you're taking?
Well, again, like I said, you know, in its natural form, the body deals with it much better than it in this pure chemical form.
Right.
And, you know, because you're having it, you know, rather than, you know, I mean, we don't get it here, but rather than eating that stuff, eat a piece of sugar cane.
So what you're saying,
your body will...
with that causes more diabetes than everything
That would.
else.
That would have more reaction, well, not just diabetes, but other health, you know, weight and so on as well. Whereas having a natural product with natural sugars in it is much better.
There's a really good app called Carbs and Cals,
Carbs
and
Cal.
you can put in what you're eating, and it'll pop out how much sugar's in that product.
Okay.
Along with the portion size that you should eat as well. We found that
Yeah,
really useful.
just some guidance.
That is hard to imagine when you're eating stuff.
What's it called?
It's called Carbs and Cals.
Calories.
Yeah, so
So it'll be CALS. Yeah.
So in breakfast,
Breakfast.
cereals, yeah,
Go for the ones which are, you know, basically just made from 100% wheat, you know, shredded wheat. You know, Weetabix. You know, Weetabix does have, I think, just have a bit of sugar in that one, but not much. But, you know, shredded wheat is just 100% wheat. You know,
Oats.
oats, yeah, they're excellent as well. They're excellent fibre in oats as well as in wheat as well.
Cornmeal porridge.
Yeah. Let me give you a little tip. When I retired, I don't know why it happened, but when I retired, my blood cholesterol went a bit too high. And my wife was with me at the doctor's when he told me, he was a young chap, was the doctor at the time, and he was wanting to be put me on statins. And my wife said, no. You know. So I thought, well, what can I do? And I thought, well, oats are supposed to be good at getting rid of it. I thought, well, we always have porridge from time to time and oats things. So I thought, I'll try using oat bran. Now, it may not work for you, because I know other people who have tried it and it hasn't worked for them. But I'll tell you what, I have every day 3 dessert spoonfuls of oat bran on my breakfast cereal. That helps with a bit with this as well, because I have constipation trouble, right? But my cholesterol levels dropped from 6 point something down to 3.4. So it worked for me in that regard. It helped me. So yeah, you know, 100% one, you know, like, you know, porridge oats can be very good for dealing with cholesterol as well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm 6'2", and I know this because I had to have a camera. I suffer with what's called irritable bowel, and a few years ago I had a camera, you know, up that way, and it's supposed to take 40 minutes, and an hour and 15 minutes later they gave up. And the letter that I got back after said he has a very long, extremely long, convoluted colon. Yeah. Well, I suppose when you're so big, it's much longer than the normal one. Yeah. Yeah. So. Any other question? No? Well, don't forget, as I say, on the 3rd of April, if you're able to listen to Hope FM, it's live on DAB in the Birmingham area. Between 2 and 4 o'clock, we'll be having a reversing diabetes course, okay? So it'll be every week for up to 12 weeks.
Just one question. Is it, I've changed what I eat and what time I'm eating certain things, and that's totally turned my stomach from bad to great. Is that because of what I'm eating? It's like instead of eating a bacon sandwich at 10 o'clock for the sake of argument, I'm having 2 slices of toast and eating a bacon sandwich at 12 o'clock. It's made a massive difference in my stomach.
Okay, it's possible, yeah. The thing is, with digestive things, we are all very different. We vary a lot. And so it's a matter of, you know, in a sense, experimenting sometimes to see what works best for you. What is a fact, breakfast needs to be eaten like a king, dinner like a prince, and tea time like a pauper. That is the better way of going about it, so you're eating less in the evening rather than massive amounts. You know, especially, you know, we've adopted in Britain this idea, right, from the French. When we got the French influence here 200 plus years ago, having dinner in the evening. But some people now are having it. They're having it at 8 o'clock at night. You know, well, to me, dinner, if it's going to be in the evening, should be at least about 6 o'clock, not 8 o'clock. You know, anyway, we're going down past.
Dinner's a proper dinner.
Breakfast
In the morning.
Sometimes,
You have dumplings.
And you don't want to eat again after that in the day. You don't. You really don't.
Yeah, so try and get a really good breakfast. Okay.
I'm going to try that now.
So
let's give a round of applause.